Whoa, slow down, slow down.
We were all shot and hold up.
Okay, where are you at?
1201 East Amador, Las Cruces Bowl.
Las Cruces Bowl?
Yes.
Okay, and there were shots fired?
Yes. All of us were hurt. I think I'm the only one conscious.
All of you were hurt? Okay, we'll get an ambulance rolling. What's your name?
Melissa Repass, please hurry.
Okay, Melissa, we've got him dispatched. Did you see who did it?
No, sir. They told us all to get down. They shot me 5 times.
Is somebody...
Probably my mommy.
Okay, Melissa.
But I know
You gotta be brave, gotta be strong now. Okay?
it. God. Oh, I got bullets in my feet.
Okay.
The bullets in my head.
The bullets in your head, too?
Please hurry.
That 911 call that you just listened to was made by 12-year-old Melissa Repass, who had just been shot in the head on February 10th, 1990, as the employees of the Las Cruces bowling alley, which used to be right here, were getting ready for that day's business. 2 men came in here with guns. Idahoan Melissa Repass, who's the granddaughter of the owner of the bowling alley, the manager Stephanie Sinak, and Melissa's friend, 13-year-old Amy Hauser, were all here. They rushed everybody to the back of the office, demanded everybody get down face first on the ground, and at gunpoint made Stephanie open up the safe to the bowling alley. When she opened up the safe, which had around $5,000, they grabbed the money, and as everybody was lying on the ground, they shot each person in the back of the head. When they turned around, presumably, according to investigators, to leave, at that time, 26-year-old Steven Taran, who was the bowling alley mechanic, was coming to work with his 2 daughters, 6-year-old Paula and 2-year-old Valerie. The only reason why he brought his kids that day to work is because he could not find a babysitter. They weren't even supposed to be there. And he had just put in his 2 weeks notice. He could have just quit. He could have just quit his job and said, I don't want to work there anymore. But, he wasn't that kind of person. He was a military man. I believe he was in the National Guard. And he had a promising career with the Army. And as he came to work, he came in on the robbery. And when they seen him, they shot him. And they shot his 2 children to death. Killed all 3 of them right there. What kind of sick son of a bitch do you have to be to shoot a 6 and a 2-year-old? I mean, what kind of sick son of a bitch do you have to be to shoot anybody? Over $2,500? You're going to split the $5,000. You're getting $2,500 each, and you attempt to kill 7 people and end up killing 4 of them for $2,500. A 2-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 13-year-old young man, 26-year-old Steven Taran. They were all brutally, horribly murdered. This murders has been unsolved for over 30 years. 30 years and not an arrest, not a suspect. And Stephanie Sinak, Melissa Repass, and Idahoan, they all survived, and they gave a pretty good detailed description of the 2 individuals that committed this crime. And the pictures are very, very distinctive. And I can't believe that nobody seen these pictures. Nobody thought to themselves, that kind of looks like my dad. That kind of looks like my uncle. Hey, that looks like my brother. My brother has a nose like that. Let me call the police at least just to see what's going on. Nobody? Nobody, huh? Nobody at all. This was the absolute worst crime that was ever committed in Las Cruces history. And that back in those days, there was only a little over 50,000 people. Las Cruces is the 2nd biggest city in New Mexico, but then there was only not even 60,000 people lived in Las Cruces. Three kids and a young man brutally cut down for nothing. I wanted to get out of the van and show you like around the bowling alley, but it is so windy right now. I can't even hear myself on the audio. So we're going to take a quick drive to the resting places of all the victims of this shooting. First, we're going to go visit Amy Hauser. She's not very far away from here. Going to go visit her grave. And here is the grave of the first murder victim. This is Amy Aileen Hauser. Grave says a sunbeam from the world has vanished. 13 years old. Murdered for $5,000. What kind of a sick bastards do this to a kid? Rest in peace to Amy, and my condolences to the Hauser family. The other victims of this horrible quadruple homicide, they're buried in Silver City. It's about 115 miles from here, and there is a snowstorm, I believe, coming, so I gotta make tracks to the cemetery and make it out of there before it gets dark. But again, my condolences. And here we are at the Memory Lane Cemetery in Silver City, New Mexico. And this is the graves of the other 3 victims of that horrible massacre that occurred at the bowling alley. This is the grave of Stephen Theron with his kids Paula and Valerie. In an interview later, many years later after the massacre, Stephen's wife said that when the police got to her at the scene, she knew that her husband was already dead, because he was the type to have fought. Like, he wouldn't have let somebody just put him down on the ground. He would have fought to protect his 2 kids. It has been over 30 years and this murder still is not solved, and it looks like, sadly, it will not be solved. It's one thing to be a psychopath and kill people. It's another to put a bullet into a child that wouldn't even be able to recognize you or point you out in a lineup. For $5,000, guys. $5,000 again. Rest in peace to these 3 souls. I hope times like this, I hope there is a heaven. Because this 2 years old, 6 years old, a young man with his whole life ahead of him, to be cut down. To be cut down over an amount of money that she could make just working hard and working a decent job. I want you to look very closely at these composite sketches. These sketches were made from the memory of the survivors of the Las Vegas Bowl massacre. The sketches on the left are what the killers looked like at the time of the robbery. The sketches on the right are age progressed. These individuals are also wanted for a suspected robbery that resulted in a murder. They are very, very highly dangerous. Perhaps you have a brother, a cousin, an uncle, a nephew, even your father that resembles these individuals. If you have any information on the identity of these people, please call Las Cruces, New Mexico Police Department 575-526-0795.